We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including lots of offseason trade and unrestricted free agent speculation. The trade rumors we're taking a look at today involve teams like the St. Louis Blues, the Dallas Stars, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the UFA talk around Dallas and Montreal as well. Plus, we have some updates on the future of Jonathan Toews. Another team could be in the mix here to sign the veteran forward who's making a comeback after 2 years away from the NHL. Plus, we're going to talk a little bit further about the Stanley Cup Final, which is set to begin in a couple of days' time here, Edmonton versus Florida. We have some signings as well, including some prospects and some news out of the Islanders organization around something that Lou Lamoriello did before he got the news that he was not being renewed and was being let go. We'll discuss all that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. First up, a couple of updates regarding the Stanley Cup Final. Both the Florida Panthers and Edmonton Oilers are, of course, at this point practicing and getting ready for the Stanley Cup Final set to begin later this week. One update on Connor McDavid. He did skate today, but did not stay on the ice long and left the ice. Had some people concerned. According to Coach Chris Knobloch, it's really nothing to be too worried about, in that he will indeed be ready and healthy and able to play in game one of this series. So no real sure exactly what was going on, but the team doesn't seem too concerned about it at this point in time. The Edmonton Oilers are expected to get Connor Brown back as well. It looks like, though, he will be ready and healthy, ready to return for game one of the final. On the Florida side of things, everybody appears to be mostly available from what we've heard, except for the possibility that AJ Greer, who normally plays a bottom six role for them, may not be available for the start of the series. Otherwise, we'll see kind of what happens here. Of course, the Memorial Cup championship game is on tonight here as well. The London Knights doing battle with the Medicine Hat Tigers. So certainly going to check out and see who's going to reign supreme in this year's Memorial Cup Final. As I record this video early in the third period, it is a 4-1 lead for the London Knights. The London prospects like Easton Cowan having a tremendous game. Denver Barkey as well, Flyers prospect. Between him and Cowan are kind of leading the way here. So both looking to kind of finish out junior careers and go out as champions after just missing out on being Memorial Cup champions last year. So you'll definitely want to check that out. Of course, Gavin McKenna, the projected 2026 first overall pick next summer, it leads, of course, the Medicine Hat Tigers, and very fun and talented player to watch. Lots of other news around the NHL here. The Colorado Avalanche have signed goalie prospect Ilya Nabokov, who they drafted in last year's NHL draft. He gets a 2-year ELC. He was a little bit older when he entered the draft, but then after he was signed, there was also news out of the KHL that Nabokov has been loaned back to KHL Metalburg team for 1 year. So it looks as though he will go back and play in Russia next year, and then hopefully make the jump to North America the year after. The Los Angeles Kings also announced that they've signed Kirill Kirsanov to a 2-year entry-level contract as well. The 6'2", 220-pound defenseman was originally drafted by LA way back in 2021, 84th overall. So it goes to show that even after long periods of time, sometimes prospects and teams still come to agreements way down the road. The Penguins have also signed a prospect today as well, signing Mikhail Ilunin to a 3-year ELC. He was a 6'3" forward drafted by the Penguins back in 2023 in the 5th round. Of course, we also got a signing at the NHL level as well, with the Seattle Kraken announcing they've extended defenseman Josh Mahura on a 2-year contract. It is a one-way deal for both years with an average annual value of $907,000. We also got word that Dallas had placed Alex Petrovic after they had lost to the Edmonton Oilers. So yesterday, actually might have been the day before, they put Alex Petrovic on waivers. Now, the reason for that, because obviously this time of year, you're not usually going to see a waiver claim, but of course, their American Hockey League affiliate, the Texas Stars, are still in the playoffs. So they're still trying to see if they can't win an AHL championship. So he cleared waivers, which it would be needed since he was up the club long enough to go back and have a chance to play with them to finish out their season and see if he can help in their playoff push here. Now, as I mentioned, some interesting info out of the New York Islanders organization. This info came out actually yesterday that I had seen it, and it was kind of weird, but I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. But former general manager Lou Lamoriello actually signed a couple of his AGMs, including his son, Chris, to multi-year extensions before he was on the way out here. Now, of course, it's not quite clear exactly when he signed those deals, but he knew he was on an expiring contract. I mean, he had to have known that there's a good chance that the Islanders were going to go in a new direction here with his contract coming to an end. Normally, in the past, like, the AGMs and the GMs, because like his son Chris has worked with him for like over 20 years. So it just, to me, is just surprising that, because, any contracts that Lou would sign, yes, he'd have the authority to do that as the general manager, but ownership would be aware. So this appears to have been a little bit of a issue, I think, between Lou and John Collins, is what I've heard as well. But like Chris Lamoriello, there's just no way this guy should even be employed in the NHL. And if his last name's not Lamoriello, he's not there. There's no doubt. He's got, I think, 22, 23-year history as an AGM under his father. And he's always typically been the looking after the American Hockey League team. So he's been an AHL GM, basically, for that period of time. During that stretch, he's got 4 years of being in the AHL playoffs and only 5 playoff game wins. So, like, there's a clear track record here of really poor performance. And yet he makes sure that he gets a multi-year deal when he knows he's probably on the way out. Now, I suspect this had to have been done before he officially got the news that his contract wasn't being renewed and that they were going in a new direction for a GM. At least I suspect it was, because we also know that Lou had handshake deals, if you will, with guys like Kyle Palmieri and Adam Boqvist. I was just rudely interrupted by a mosquito flying by. I had to need to take care of that before we continue the video here. But obviously, like I said, Lou's track record here with his son, just not good. And at the end of the day, this was really just a low blow type of really shitty move, for lack of a better word, on his part on his way out. I don't understand it. So now Darsh is stuck with them for a while, likely, because, ownership's not going to want to pay them to not work with them. Like I said, with Palmieri and Boqvist, he had handshake deals already in place, but we know how Lou operates a lot of the times in past years. He would do these handshake type of agreements with players, and then contracts wouldn't get signed and filed with the league until like August or September or something ridiculous. And he just had such a secretive way about him. Like, you can say all you want about all the good things. His career hasn't been all bad. He's been a good GM largely, but there's little nuances about how he likes to operate that can be mildly annoying. So this, to me, is just another one of those things that was just really disappointing to hear, and things that Darsh had to kind of deal with here. Like, we saw the Palmieri signing. It was like, oh, that sounds exactly what was rumored when Lou was still there. Oh, wait, it is. Exactly. So, it's not all bad. The only thing about Palmieri, which I get, it's a veteran forward. A lot of vets on 1 or 2 year deals are often given no trade clauses, even though they're not the only team that does that, and he got one, which I don't agree with. But it's not just a Lou thing or an Islander thing. It's pretty common across the league, but I completely disagree with that. If you're going to be a veteran player playing at 35, 36, 37 years old, and you're going to sign a short-term deal, you have to be aware that, or be prepared to say, if things aren't working out, that they have the right to trade you. That's just the way the business should work. But, and I get, being loyal to the veterans. I get it. It's just, it really puts teams in a bind. It really do, because, at some point for some of these players, the wheels are going to fall off, and Father Time will catch up and win that battle yet again. It's just, you don't know for each player when exactly that's going to happen. Is the problem. So we'll see. Unfortunate situation for Darsh to walk into, but clearly ownership must have had some involvement in that before they got their new GM in place, which is just just a bad scene overall. Jonathan Toews, we've heard the reports that he wants to come back to the NHL. A number of reputable NHL insiders have confirmed that Toews has given his agent, Pat Brisson, the go-ahead. And if I'm not mistaken, Brisson's already made it officially through an interview as well, confirming that he wants to come back, wants to play. And we've heard about a few teams, including his hometown Winnipeg Jets. They have a need for a centerman. He might be a good fit there. We've heard about, what if he wants to reunite with his old coach, Joe Quenneville, who just got hired in Anaheim. Could be a good, veteran guy to be around a lot of their youth. There's that speculation. We've heard about the fact that teams like Colorado and Toronto, like contending teams that are probably going to need help down the middle as well, might be interested. But a new team that we hadn't heard, and I just saw an article today suggesting it, Would he want to reunite with some of his former Blackhawk teammates and Patrick Kane specifically, and to some degree Alex DeBrincat as well? Of course, they all played together in Chicago, and could Toews end up in Detroit? I guess it's a possibility, depending on what he wants for a contract. I would suspect he's probably only going to do a one-year deal. And I suspect it's not going to take a lot of money to get him. It's probably going to be more of a fit, like where does he fit and where does he want to be? I think that's going to probably be more than anything. He's made a ton of money. I suspect he's going to play for cheap until he can kind of reprove himself. If things work out like it did for Kane, then maybe he, re-ups for more money if he continues to play beyond the current season. At least that's how I think it's going to go. That's just my gut feeling. But I don't know. If I'm Steve Yzerman in Detroit, you have so many veterans already. You kind of need to make sure your youth don't get boxed out, which has been a bit of an issue. And there's just, I don't know. As much as the thought is interesting, I don't see it being a good fit for the team as much as it might be for the player. So we'll see what happens on that front. There's lots of speculation around UFA stuff and trade stuff. We'll start with the Dallas Stars, who were just eliminated from the Western Conference Finals here against the Edmonton Oilers. The Dallas Stars are going to be an interesting team to watch. I mean, that's 3 straight years they go to the Western Final. 3 straight years they unfortunately don't win and go to the Stanley Cup Final here. Now, Pete DeBoer, of course, has a long history of making it to the West Final or Conference Final in general and not getting over that hump for some reason. But this is a team that's in a very tight cap situation, and they're going to have some very tough decisions to make. They have under $5 million in available salary cap space next year, and they have some pretty prominent unrestricted free agents, including captain Jamie Benn, centerman Matt Duchene, who's been a very productive player in a couple of years that he's played there, Mikael Granlund, of course, who came over near the deadline as well from San Jose, who's been a good fit there. They've got a couple of RFAs and Maverick Bourque and Nils Lundqvist. They won't be big contracts, but still, just to sign them, period. Even if they sign for under $1 million, that's still money coming off the cap, no matter how you shake it. They're going to have a tough situation here. They're probably not going to be able to bring everybody back. And the other question they need to ask themselves is, we've made it to this far every, a couple of years in a row. What are we missing? How can we get better? And if you can't even deal with your own players and you're going to have to subtract so you can try to keep some guys, it's going to be challenging to make additions to make you better, per se. On paper, this Dallas team looked really good. One of the better Dallas teams we've seen in recent years. Came up short again. So ultimately, the names being bantered around as far as being likely trade targets. One is Matt Dumba, and that's going to not be easy to do. They had a lot of money tied up between Dumba and Lyubushkin, and they opted in the playoffs to not even play those guys. They were sitting on the sidelines for a guy like Alex Petrovic, which I know that Petrovic's, he spends most of the year in the minors. He did the same thing last year. So Dumba's on a one year final year of his deal, $3.75 million. Not going to be easy to move him based on the fact that he didn't have a great season, and Dallas didn't even feel comfortable putting him in the lineup in the playoffs. So, that they can try. Not going to be easy. They might have to go with the buyout route. Then there's Mason Marchment. He's on a final year of his contract, making $4.5 million. Of course, he came over as a UFA from Florida a couple of years back. So ultimately, these are some players they're probably going to have to try to move to create some space to see if they can't keep some of their other players. Now, Jamie Benn, in his end of season availability, basically said he doesn't see himself playing anywhere else. He's also a player whose play has declined drastically since his last contract. His last contract paid him really big money, long-term deal. At one point when scoring was way down, he was an Art Ross Trophy winner. That's hard to imagine today. He's definitely like a bottom 6 player now. So how cheap is he willing to sign to keep playing and to remain a Dallas Star? That's a question we don't know the answer to, but it sure seems like it's going to have to be pretty cheap if there's any chance for him to stay. But there does appear to be mutual interest. GM Jim Nill has made it mention before that as long as he's the GM there, he's going to do his best to make sure that Jamie Benn's a part of it as long as he wants to be. And, of course, we know he wants to be still. So that's going to be interesting. He may have to kind of wait and see what they can do for space. And then Matt Duchene and Mikael Granlund are players that I think there would be interest for Dallas to bring back. But, there's no room. It's very challenging, right? So with a Marchment trade and a Dumba trade or buyout, that would certainly free up some space. So look for those names to be available on the market and maybe depart the Stars. And if they can't work out for Matt Duchene, there was a lot of speculation, I know, that he wants a long-term deal. Based on his comments at end of season, he said that these one-year deals have been tough and that with the stage he's at with a young family, a couple of young kids, that he needs more stability. Of course, he had a long-term deal in Nashville, got bought out, was blindsided, was not expecting that. Ends up, of course, he has that money coming in from that contract, so clearly he's in a situation where he could sign cheaper for a little bit because he was getting his income supplement basically from his buyout pay. So it wasn't such a big deal, but he's done that for 2 years, and he's outplayed the contract. He was a point per game player. Obviously didn't have great playoff numbers this year, but in the past has been. So if he wants a longer term contract, if he wants to do like a 3, 4, 5 year deal, he'll get it on the open market. Somebody will give him that contract. I mean, he's into his mid-30s now, so he could be one last shot and really to get a decent term contract that could take him to the end of his career, or at least you would think it's possible depending on how long he plays. So I know one team that I've seen a lot of their media talking about as a number 2 center fit would be Montreal. Now, there's going to be lots of teams, I think, that look into him, and I'm not sure where his preference is to play. He's obviously played in Canada before. He's played in the U.S. most of the time. Played in some no-tax states like Nashville, so I'm not sure what his preference would be, but I know there was lots of Montreal media suggesting who they could target in free agency to fill that 2C spot, and his name comes up. He's one of the more stronger centermen. There's not a lot of centers on the market. I mean, John Tavares could be maybe an option, but I mean, I think he wants to stay in Toronto, just like Duchene wants to stay in Dallas. But the question is will it work out? Will they offer him something to keep him there? That's what we don't know yet. So could Duchene be an option for the Canadians? I believe that they would be looking into it if he is available, but it's going to boil down to price. I think with his buyout contract from Nashville and what he's earned in recent years, he still might be willing to sign for a bit of a discount, which could still be beneficial to them because they're definitely not going to want to sign anybody, I don't think, higher than Nick Suzuki, and I don't think he would be looking for that. So I think that would probably be a good fit should they work it out. We'll see. And in St. Louis, another team like Dallas with a lot of really tight cap situation. So we could see some moves there. Of course, one player that they do have is Torrey Krug. Now, Torrey Krug could become a trade piece, or it could become an LTIR option for them. They have just over $5 million, closer to 5.9 available in space. So if the Blues want to, between their own internal business and trying to make upgrades, a couple of names that are potential players that can be moved to free up that space, whether it be through trade or buyout, could be Alex Texier, possibly Matthew Joseph. Joseph is a player they got from Ottawa basically for nothing. So if they, move on from him, it's not like they're going to be losing much in that sense. But the Krug contract still has a year on it and could be LTIR to give them more availability, or it could be moved so they have more flexibility and can try to accrue space during the year. So there's a couple of minor things we could see, but we do know that around the trade deadline, there was a lot of talk around Captain Braden Shen. Obviously, he had some say in things, but there was a lot of chatter about a trade to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Of course, he's an Ontario-born player. You got of course, the connection to his former coach Craig Berube, who we know loves Shen, and they won together in St. Louis. Berube would know that some of these guys with the Blues that he won with there, he knows they have what it takes to have that, that competitive edge and what you need to win in the playoffs, what Toronto's appear to be missing right now. And if they don't bring Marner back, if he leaves via free agency, they could have more flexibility in their cap space, and they could probably bring in 2 players for what Marner is making, right? Maybe even more than that. So, could Shen be one of them? I mean, I don't know what a trade package would have to look like, but I mean, we know Toronto has a few decent prospects that are still, they might be willing to move. I know Nick Robertson's a name they might be willing to part with. It wouldn't be shocking if they move Bobby McMahon either, another player to possibly watch. So there's some names there that could be interesting to St. Louis. I don't know what exactly the trade would take to pull off, But I do wonder if they revisit Schenn in the offseason, since Toronto's going to be looking to change their DNA, as our general manager, Brad Treliving, put it in his end of season media availability a couple of days ago. Schenn would be one of those types of players. So we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.